Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2102. Today we're talking hot rods. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in El Segundo, California, with a very special guest by the name of John McGann. John, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have any gear? And are you ready to release the clutch?
I am ready to release the clutch, Mark. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. We're going to lay some stripes down because we're going to be talking about hot rods and cool cars and all that kind of stuff. We kind of do that every day here on Cars Yeah, but for you, it's extra special. But before I give you a proper introduction and we dive into your world, what's one little thing that maybe people don't know about you, John?
I am a severe introvert.
No.
So sometimes that makes my job a little bit difficult.
Well, yeah. I don't know. With all my guests, I have a nice little pre-show chat, and I'll tell listeners that I didn't get that impression at all when we were chatting at the beginning. But, it's funny when you interview people every day, and that's why I don't even use the word interview. I use the word conversation, because I always tell people this is just like you and I meeting at a hot rod show, talking about a car we like and so forth. So, and you're a great company, because there's been 2,101 people before you that I didn't gobble up, and some have even come back. So I promise to be nice.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
We'll have fun. All right, let me give you a proper introduction. John McGann is the editor-in-chief of Hot Rod Magazine, a voracious reader of car magazines and lover of all things automotive. He set out to learn as much as he could about cars. That makes sense. An automotive technology program provided the foundation, while fumbling around with large American sedans provided real-world experience. And finally, a Bachelor of Science degree in photojournalism provided the focus. Nice pun. John accepted a 5-month photography internship at Motor Trend magazine back in 2003, and upon completion, he remained with the publishing company, managing a photo studio for 18 months before becoming photo editor for Hot Rod and Carcraft. He eventually became editor of Carcraft in 2014 and retained that position until March 2018, when he moved to Hot Rod as executive editor. He was promoted to editor-in-chief of Hot Rod in April of 2019. I see a little trend in your life here, John. Just a little bit. We'll be back in just a minute, but first a word from our sponsor, so please give them a little love. They're the reason we're here today, and we'll be right back. I love Covercraft's new 5-layer all-climate cover. It was developed and engineered for anything Mother Nature can throw our way. It's very soft, breathable, and easy to store, and pampers your paint and interior surfaces, providing maximum UV, rain, dust, and snow protection. Add their gust guards for windy conditions for extra protection. Their 5-layer all-climate cover is custom-tailored with Covercraft's attention to detail, form and fit with a quality and attention that's been their standard since 1965. Covercraft protects cars, trucks, motorcycles, RVs, trailers, and watercraft too. Every one of my vehicles is protected by a Covercraft cover. And I have a deal for you. Use the code YEAH21 at covercraft.com and you'll get 10% off your Covercraft order plus free shipping. That's right, 10% off and free shipping. Just type in the word YEAH, Y-E-A-H, 21 at checkout, YEAH21 at covercraft.com. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. Zengen. It's a company that I learned about when I had Zengen's Matt Spurlock as a guest here on Cars Yeah. Matt's helping us enthusiasts understand the benefits of using oil analysis and proper sampling methods with the Zengen Consumer Testing Service to determine the condition of your engine in anything from cars to motorcycles, boats, and even aircraft engines. I gave it a try with my 2 vehicles, sent in my samples with their easy-to-use sample kit, and received my own personal Zengen report. I was thrilled to discover that both my cars got really great scores. What a relief. Wouldn't you like to know what's going on inside your engine before something expensive goes wrong that you had no idea was lurking under the hood? It's like a blood test for your body, but for your vehicle. And I've got a great deal for you. Go to ZengenScore.com and use the code CARSYEAH20 and you'll get 20% off your first 2 kits. What a deal! Preventative knowledge and maintenance could save you thousands, and you'll rest better at night knowing your engine's condition is A-OK. That's ZengenScore.com and use the code CARSYEAH20 today. Most people don't think about their collector car insurance until their annual premium becomes due. Well, why wait and see if there are better options for your beloved rides? I didn't. Did you know if you change carriers before your policy runs out, your insurance company has to refund you the unearned portion of your policy premium? I did my homework, I shopped around, and I found American Collectors Insurance. And that's who protects my Porsche Turbo. That's right, the one I call my Orange Crush. They've been protecting collector vehicles since 1976. I encourage you to call my friends at American Collectors Insurance. Ask them about their agreed value policy. And if your collector vehicle is on your regular auto policy, you will be shocked at the savings, not to mention the assurance, should something bad happen to your ride, that you'll get what your vehicle is actually worth. Give them a call today for a quote at 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of Mark Green at Cars Yeah! American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. Automotive enthusiasts just like you and me. That's American Collectors Insurance. Give them a call today. So, John, we are back. So we're going to dive a little deeper into the corners, I like to say, as we get in some hot rods and have some fun today. But I want to talk a little bit about this background because I find out that you love photography and that kind of got you into the career and then you evolved your way through. So kind of take us back and walk us through your career. And then we're going to talk more about your role there at Hot Rod Magazine.
Sure. I was a very late bloomer. I graduated high school in 1991 and went to college for a couple years, and I couldn't figure out what the hell to do with myself.
Like most people.
Yeah. And so I ended up starting this cycle of on again, off again in programs and working full time. And I finally decided on photography probably sometime around 1997 when I went back to college and I just took photography, a intro to photography class as an elective, just for something to do. I needed to fill some hours. And, I'd been taking pictures, but I wasn't doing it in any formal way at all. I didn't mind it. It was always kind of fun. So in that concentrated environment, I was like, well, okay, I kind of like this. It's visual, it's artistic, but it's also very practical and somewhat mechanical too. We were using manual film cameras at the time.
Oh yeah, the old days.
Right. So I investigated. I was talking with my teachers there, and they recommended I change colleges and go to Ohio University because they had a photojournalism class, and that's what I was interested in rather than studio photography. I kind of liked the having to chase a story, having to anticipate action happening, that kind of work. And so I did. I transferred to OU, graduated in 3 years. I made a point to, I'm going to do this and I'm going to see it through.
Right. Yeah. Something I love. That's the most important part of this story, I think.
Yes, you're right. So it was great. I graduate, I've got this degree, and now I'm like, all right, newspapers are going to hire me, right? And so I began the job searching process, and it was difficult because that's right around the time when digital cameras were becoming good enough to use for publishing. And newspapers were, instead of hiring a separate dedicated photo staff, were sending their reporters, their writers out with digital cameras because if you can erase your bad pictures,
Yeah.
So I was having a really difficult time finding a job. I was about 6 months of applying for different jobs all around the country. And out of an act of desperation, I called the photographer at Motor Trend magazine because I've been into car magazines since I was a very little kid. And I left him a voice message and said, how do I get in the business? I figured that would be better than how, you guys should hire me.
Yeah, I want a job. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, help me. Yeah.
Right. How do I get in the business? It took 2 weeks, but he called me back, asked for my portfolio. And 2 to 3 weeks after that, he called me back out of the blue again and offered me an internship.
Oh, cool.
So, and I was living in Ohio at the time. We were from Cleveland. I grew up in Cleveland. And it wasn't a paid internship, unfortunately. But my dad's like, if you don't do this, you're not going to get the chance again. So,
Right. Yeah.
30 years old, I moved to Los Angeles to take an internship at Motor Trend magazine to be their photo intern, and it's led to where I am today.
Well, it's a great story. You hit that weird time frame in history of digital coming on, internet coming on. Print was kind of the beginning of trouble for a lot of print because they weren't adjusting to what was happening. But then again, how did they know? Because it was all kind of new and different. And yeah, you kind of fell into those weird cracks. I bet that's kind of the way you felt, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, wait a minute. Just when I thought I knew what's going on, they changed the rules.
A little bit, yeah, and it's been a lot of that since then. Yeah, when I first started, we were using film cameras. We were using slide film, transparency, and developing the transparencies at a local color shop here in Los Angeles. And then since then, it's turned into digital publishing, and then, the rise of social media, YouTube, all that stuff, and how that's affected the industry. It's almost makes your head spin when you think about it.
Well, it does. And that leads you to today with Hot Rod Magazine. Now, you're at this iconic, legendary title that started back in the late 40s, I think, wasn't it?
Yes, 1948.
Yeah. And you think about the evolution of the hot rod, what was going on after the war, GIs coming back, they felt invincible if they made it back.
Right.
I survived that. I can do anything.
Exactly.
And culture was changing and the 50s were coming. I mean, you think about all this stuff that was going on, and you picked up the gavel here to carry this thing forward. That must have been a bit of a heavy gavel, because it's like, okay, here, you're in charge. Don't mess this up.
Oh, yes. Actually, I feel that every day.
Okay, well, it's good to have a little heat at your back, just like racing, to have somebody chasing you. I've heard of some race car drivers that don't even want to be in the front for a while. They want to be chasing the front guy and then pass him at that last minute, kind of like that Indy 500 deal. So what's it been like taking on Hot Rod Magazine, and especially since you've done it? Because now we're in this whole other change of mindset and what hot rods are, and now we're going into these, just when you get where you are, oh no, we're going to do this EV thing. Yes.
That's all right. all valid concerns, and they're all part of, I guess, what's happening in society, but I look at them as separate things. EVs just as particular. I'm not sure if they are actually the emerging technology. I know that's something that is a movement right now, but I don't know if that's actually going to survive the search for something more environmentally friendly. So, I keep hearing about hydrogen-powered vehicles instead, and that may be the actual solution. So EVs, I don't care too much about. They're on my radar. I don't personally like them. I'm not interested in them. I don't want to drive them.
But I think there's a lot of car people that kind of feel that way. What I've heard is an analogy here, and I've heard this many times on Cars Yeah with many guests, is if you think back to the horse and then the first combustion engine, and people go, oh, who wants to ride in that slow, smelly, stinky thing?
Right.
A horse, well, the horse might smell funny, but he's much faster and more reliable because that's what we know. But eventually it changed, but the horse never really went away.
True.
It's still around today. It's just used in a different venue. And I've heard people talk about that the combustion engine in cars, let's say hot rods, supercars, sports cars, all these things will eventually be what the horse is. So you'll take them to special places and use them. And if you think about hot rods, I mean, there's different variations of hot rods. So tell me how, since you've been in charge there, the hot rod mentality has evolved a bit. Because if you think back to what I consider hot rods when I was a kid in the 60s and 70s, it was the 32, the Deuce, and cars with these fenders off. And I was like, oh, those are those things that were done a while ago. And then you get into muscle cars could you call that a hot rod maybe? So what do you see, or how do you guys approach the hot rod world today with Hot Rod Magazine?
Yeah, it's definitely an evolving term, hot rod. And, what's a performance car? I just tackled that issue in an editorial column I wrote about cars like the Singer-built Porsches. There's a company called Cyan that's doing the similar treatment to Volvo P1800s, if you can believe it.
I just had the guy in charge on my show last week. Yep.
Very cool person.
Hans was here. Yeah.
Yes, I got to meet him too at a press event. And he put the question to me directly, can a Volvo be a hot rod? And absolutely so, yes.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that because I was waiting for you to say, could a Singer be a hot rod? And in my mind, yeah, absolutely. Or Rod Emery Outlaw build or John Wilhoit Outlaw build or, I mean, there's the RSR project. And I'll ask you this question, John, because I was always my whole life a bit of a diehard purist. I felt that classic cars, old cars had to be somewhat pure to what they were. But when you start driving a Singer, when you drive an Emery Outlaw, a John Wilhoit Outlaw, RSR, I mean, those cars, my whole philosophy's changed now. I'm a hot rod guy. I guess I'm a hot rod guy. I never knew I was.
I think that movement, and it's going to continue, but I think that movement sort of stems out of how reliable, comfortable, almost like you don't have to think about any maintenance issues at all, new cars are. And so within that context, you're looking at your old car because, I mean, let's face it, anything older than 1990 or 95 or so, we'll call it, has a lot of character still, but especially going back into the 50s and 60s. Those cars just look good compared to the stuff that's on the road today. I can't even tell a Hyundai from a Kia from a...
I know. It's just something out of my wife the other day. We were driving somewhere and I went, gosh, everything is white, gray, or black and boring and vanilla. It's like, where are all the cool cars?
Right. Looks like a jelly bean.
Yeah.
So people who are interested in cars still want something that stands out. Like I don't want to drive a Corolla or a Camry. I have this old thing or I see an ad for this, whatever it is. And I want that. So they get it and they're like, oh, wow, this thing drives terribly. It rides rough. The brakes are terrible. It's not like my Camry. And so then how do I make it ride and drive and accelerate like a Camry? Or take your pick, Dodge Challenger, Hellcat, new Mustang, new Camaro. And really, that's something that we've always been doing. But I think it's more overt now, where you take something, you keep its classic shape, but you modernize it in a variety of different ways. That's all possible with the aftermarket now. Brake kits, suspensions, coilovers, fuel efficient but powerful engines, electronic fuel injection, overdrive transmissions, and all of a sudden you can take something. I've got two of them right here in my garage, especially my 67 C10. I mean, it's still rough around the edges, but it's got coilovers, it's got big tires, rack and pinion steering.
Yeah. Well, it makes it more comfortable. And so let me ask you this question, John. From your perspective, when does a vehicle become a hot rod?
That I know that is a tough thing because everyone will have their own opinion. Some might say, well, it's the second I do something to it. So I put a cold air kit or I put a K&N air filter in it. All of a sudden, I'm a hot rodder. And, there's a whole different spectrum of things that people do to cars and how you're judged based on the other people in your community. I would say that someone who just buys a car, puts a K&N air filter on, that's a start, and that's a great start. Yes, you're a hot rodder because you're personalizing it. Here's this thing I like, but I want to make it my own, or I want to do this because it's supposed to be better. Because that will lead to other things. All of a sudden you're like, yeah, well, I did that. That wasn't so bad. Let me put a cold air kit on it around this K&N air filter. And then it goes from there. Well, I hear headers make your exhaust flow better, or let's put bigger diameter tubes and freer flowing mufflers. And next thing you know, you're your elbows deep into
spending money.
Yeah, exactly, spending money.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there's a DIY aspect. It's nice if I don't look down on people who don't build their own cars. Some people do, and I understand that. But you're in there, you're learning, you're doing stuff, and if you're doing some of your work on doing some of your own work yourself, then that's even better.
Yeah. So would you say the philosophy has evolved, obviously, over time with Hot Rod Magazine, but today, would you say it's a lot more welcoming to a wider variety of people who love different kinds of cars than maybe back in the 60s when a hot rod was typically a car that was modified from the 30s and the 40s, the 50s, and you would never look at something newer than 58, 59, I don't know, pick a number, let's say when I was a kid. Is that the philosophy now?
I think so, yes.
Well, that's good.
Mm-hmm. And I would even go further to say, when Hans asked me, Hans from Cyan asked about the Volvo, there's the notion of doing something to your car for more performance, for better performance, and that I would consider hot rodding. Now, within that context, too, the audience of Hot Rod Magazine would also have a set of expectations that would typically be, American car, V8 engine, rear-wheel drive. And that's kind of our core still, but we always have to evolve with the times, with the readers, with readers' budgets, and then with the demise of the other magazines that our company used to do 2 years ago, where there was a niche for, we had Chevy High Performance, we had Super Chevy, Muscle Mustangs, and Fast Fords, so that kind of all those titles had their own entity, and now they're gone. So Hot Rod, in addition to like updating or keeping up with the times, now our audience got that much broader because the other niche magazines went away, and so we can we
Bring
can
those
handle
into the family.
Exactly. So new Mustangs, new Camaros. Hot Rod can be anything from a Model T, T-Bucket, to a brand new Corvette, a Camaro.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of fun, and it's more inclusive. And car people are all buddies anyway. I always say if it rolls on rubber, I probably like it. Maybe some more than others, but for sure. Has there been a driving inspiration or a influential person, mentor, somebody in your life that's been a great inspiration for you in your career?
Yes, that would be John Kiewitz, who was the photographer at Motor Trend at the time, who hired me or offered me the internship.
Okay.
I would never have gotten into the business, I don't think, otherwise, and I wouldn't be where I am right now because of him.
Nice. So when you think about John, he did some nice things for you that led to or took you to where you are today. And I always say to people, you just never know when you meet somebody where that connection can take you. And that's why you always want to make that connection positive, especially right out of the box, but keep those connections near and dear because, boy, they can change your life, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I had a coworker who said, it's good to be pleasant with people you meet in the industry and outside of the industry, because you never know who you're going to be working for one of these days.
Yeah, just like burning those bridges. You never want to burn those bridges or those ladders. You might have to climb up that ladder again someday.
That's right. Exactly right.
Eat some crow a little bit. We'll take a short break and thank some sponsors here. We come back. I want to talk about a big challenge that you faced along the way. All great leaders have faced challenges, so keep that thought in mind. Keep seatbelts tight, and we'll be right back. You listeners know I've been into car care my entire life. I am so excited to team up with AutoGeek in 2022. AutoGeek.net has been a leading source of auto detailing products, accessories, and expert knowledge for more than 20 years. What started in 1997 as a mail-order catalog company has grown into a multi-website based e-commerce store that they are today. With a large online presence on its own website featuring close to 100 different brands, AutoGeek has grown to be the largest car care retailer in the country. AutoGeek's wholesale program serves accounts in over 30 countries, and its retail sector ships worldwide. Go to autogeek.net for the best product selection on the internet today and their stellar technical support. autogeek.net. It's where I go for all my detailing needs. That's autogeek.net. Linkage. It's a new quarterly publication and website that covers the automotive market, driving, restoring, collecting, and discovering your passion for motor vehicles. Linkage is about experiences, opinions, and values. Linkage is an actual informed, reasoned opinion based on first-hand experiences. A talented linkage team covers the automotive world, the people who share your passion and mine, smart, considered, rational, and experienced opinions, ones you can learn from and grow. That includes our passion that drives auctions and the collector car market. So come with me and join us on this journey. And be sure to use the code CARSYEAH when you subscribe, and they'll give you $10 off. Boom! Linkage, geared for the automotive life. Subscribe today at linkagemag.com. We all count on skilled auto technicians to ensure that our families and ourselves are safe on the road. That an airplane will get me safely to my destination, that trucks are moving the stock to shelves of essential parts and things that we need. That's why TechForce Foundation's slogan is so appropriate. When techs rock, America rolls. I love that. TechForce is a charity of Cars Yeah, and like all charities, they need our support. If you love cars and can relate to the young person's desire to turn their passion into a career, go to techforce.org today and donate or become a volunteer. That's techforce.org. So John, the challenge question, one of my favorites here on Cars Yeah. A big obstacle, big challenge, maybe even a big failure you faced that you had to overcome, but more importantly, what did it teach you moving forward?
Yeah, well, it's a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how personal you want to get. I don't talk about this with a lot of people, but it is a real issue.
Oh, now you've opened the door, so we got to walk in.
I have to,
For
have
sure.
to go there. But
yeah, we've been a lot of interesting places on this show, so don't worry about it.
Okay. Mental health challenges are something that, everyone has to deal with. I have a long history of having depression. And that goes back to me being in high school before it was trendy to have a therapist,
Well, sure. Yeah.
And, it's always sort of there in the back of my mind, but, you deal with these things every day and you overcome, or it's a challenge. I've had it affect my personal life, my professional life on rare occasions, but, I've had to ask for a later deadline on an assignment or something because I was having an issue.
Right.
But, in spite of it all, I'm still here. I've survived a lot of layoffs at the company. I don't know. I would never say I'm a stellar employee, but I have survived. I have survived quite a bit.
This is an important notion, and I think it's even more important today, especially after COVID. We hear all the time about, and especially, it's not just young people, but let's pick young people.
Sure.
That this COVID situation, the isolation, the change, all that has really created a devastating situation for so many young people that just don't know how to deal with it. Their parents don't know how to deal with it. And I really believe that for a long time, and even today in some respects, although it's good that it's changing, is that mental health issues, depression, whatever entity that pops up in someone's life has always been ignored. And we don't talk about that, or let's not go there, or it's uncomfortable.
Right.
And I'm glad that it's changing. And it really is, if you think about it, if we think about health issues, let's talk about even way back in the day, cancer. Oh, we don't talk about grandma's cancer.
No.
Nowadays that would be ridiculous not to discuss that. Right. And so I'm really happy that people like you are sharing this right now on this forum, because there's somebody listening out there that has not figured out how to deal with this in their life. And if I was to ask you, what are some of the ways that you have found that helped you through this, that you could share with somebody listening that hasn't figured that out yet, that's sitting there going, I'm all by myself, my parents won't listen to me, or maybe I haven't even tried to tell them because I don't know how. What are some of the things you would share that might help somebody?
It's very difficult. And I know that's not inspiring, but it's very difficult, but you can get through.
Well, it's empathetic. It's right. There's a start, right?
Yes. Yeah. But for me personally, it was a continued desire to learn new things. Like I don't have an automotive background. I've always been interested in cars, but I started taking VOTEC classes at a community college.
Cool.
And I'm not a great mechanic, but I'm competent. I do my own work. I've learned how to paint cars, do auto body and some paint.
Wow.
I turned out a few paint jobs over the years.
That's brave.
It is. And that's the kind of stuff I threw myself into. When times were pretty bleak in my head, there's something like that you can say, okay, I took some project from this state of being to, I made it better. I fixed a dent. I repaired some rust damage. I did that myself. I painted this fender and it looks good. Now, specifically, COVID was a real tough challenge too, for me, because the isolation. I'm used to traveling a lot. I'm used to photographing motorsports.
Oh, yeah.
Being
that
at
was
car
all
shows.
shut down. Yeah.
Yeah. I bought a motorcycle.
Oh, cool.
And yes.
What kind of bike did you buy?
I have a 2008 Harley Davidson Sportster.
Whoa, baby.
1200. Yep.
Nice. Whoa.
Yep.
Nice.
I People say it's your wife's bike. Well, it's a place to start. I used to have a motorcycle years ago before I moved to California, and I've never been able to get one. So I made it happen because I was kind of going crazy just sitting around. And what other, in a place like California, Southern California, where you can ride every day of the year, basically.
Oh yeah,
it's a solitary thing. I go out, I ride around. I'm not endangering anybody's health, and it was that got me through a lot. So there are ways you can cope.
You touch on something really important here, and I've talked to a lot of people in the automotive industry who've talked about how the car industry, the hobby, all that did very well during COVID. And one of the reasons why is that the automobile, the motorcycle became a refuge for us. While the traffic was down, especially when you think about Southern California and the traffic situations there, you could get in your car, not harm anybody or risk yourself, and go for a drive and enjoy it versus most people who don't like cars just sat at home and felt trapped. So the car that gave us freedom as kids and as America, the automobile evolved and gave us all freedom to travel. It became that therapy, right?
Yes.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Absolutely. I would definitely say that's the case for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you sharing a really personal side to your life. And I believe you gave many people here, and even for people that don't suffer from this, but have bits of time where they have self-doubt perhaps, or they don't feel good or whatever it might be, go find something to work on that shows some type of accomplishment forward. And that gives you a sense of, I did that.
Yes.
Right?
That's very important. Yeah.
Yeah, very important. I think it's important in many respects. Well, nice segue when you talked about that bike to a special vehicle here, because I like to ask people about a vehicle that was very special to them. Could be a bike, could be a car you have now, or something in your past. So tell us about that ride.
Well, it is. It's and it's totally stock. It's a 2008 Sportster Roadster, so it's got the dual front disc brakes, which is unlike most of Harley Davidson's model lineup. But I found it at Bartell's here in Marina Del Rey. It was for sale on their website. I think I paid $6,500 out the door. Yeah. I paid it off within a year.
Nice.
And it's been a long time since I've ridden. So, there's a little bit of a learning curve. I had taken all the motorcycle safety foundation classes.
Oh, those are great.
25 years ago in Ohio. So I signed up for another one.
Well, smart man. I'll tell you, my hat's off to you, because I know a lot of people that came back to bikes didn't do that. And some ended up in a bad situation. I came back to bikes and did that. And I almost thought, why do I need to do this? I rode motorcycles as a kid. But I'm convinced it saved my life many times.
I believe it. I was rusty. I had that class scheduled within a week of me taking possession of the Sportster. So, and then, and like you were saying, I'd go on these short rides, kind of branched out into more curvy roads. And, I'd go early in the morning on a weekend where there wasn't a lot of traffic. I wasn't holding people up, and I just, back and forth, just like practice.
Yep.
Up and down the same stretch of road. And, I finally reached a point where I believe me, I'm not ready to take a race, join a race series or anything, but I feel, good and
comfortable.
Yes. And the feeling I get from it, I love driving, but motorcycling for some reason is like that much more.
Oh yeah. The smells that you get that you don't get in a car when you're isolated. And the one thing I've noticed when I got back into riding bikes was you notice everything that in a car you can drive to work and not even remember driving.
Right.
Which is true. A little bit frightening, but you remember every pebble on the road, every vehicle, every car on a side street, every person walking, every dog, cow, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's cool. Well, congratulations. That is very fun. So I'm going to be your car psychologist. I'm going to crawl into your skull a little bit. If you were manifest or reincarnated, pun intended, since we started off our talk with a great pun, what would you be, but more importantly, why?
Yeah, I know. That's a tough. I think my answer might sound a little bit weird, but
That's okay.
I think if they were to build an automotive version of me, it would be a 454 SS pickup from like the early 90s, or like an 88 to 91 or 2 Chevy 454 SS pickup.
Ooh. Okay, so now we got to know why.
Yes. Well, because of the performance. Now, you don't think of a half-ton pickup truck as a solid performer, but in its day, at its time, it was pretty unique and revolutionary for Chevrolet to put a 454 engine in there.
Oh, yeah.
And then lowered, two-wheel drive, nice-looking wheels, kind of classy. I can take it out to a nice restaurant and not feel like the valet guy is going to sneer at me.
Park in the back, bub. The deliveries are at the back door.
I know.
Yeah.
Parking around the corner. And that generation Chevy pickups have really held their value. So they're kind of like a workhorse.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess that's what I envision.
Well, it's kind of cool. I love the stacked headlights on those things. If I got my mind straight on that, right? Does it have like the 4 headlights, or is that a turn signal down below there?
It was the turn signals below, but the early ones had those 2 little sealed beam headlights next to each other with the wide turn signal beneath it. And yeah, they're just good looking. I've always liked that truck. I have a 93 GMC, same C1500, single cab, 2-wheel drive, short bed. That's my other car. So, I'm kind of building a mini version or a light version of a 454 SS.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, how about a great book that you've read? It doesn't have to be a car book, but business book, whatever. So one you'd like to share?
Well, I do actually listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Okay.
And it's not highbrow at all, but I think one of my favorite is Rainbow Six by Tom Clancy. I listen to audiobooks. People tell me I'm a good writer. I don't feel like I am, but people say that about me.
It's always a work in progress when you're a writer, right?
It is, yes. And of everything I do, writing is something I almost detest.
Now, wait a minute. You're an editor. Okay.
I know.
Well, you're editing other right. Okay, I get it. Yep.
Well, I can proofread stuff pretty quickly, but it's just sit down and with a blank screen and have to churn something out.
Yeah.
I don't like that. So, but I have to, so I do it. But I get inspiration from listening to stuff. These audiobooks really help me a lot. So Tom Clancy, for example, that is a very long story. I think that was like a 14-hour audio file. Wow. And, he goes into incredible detail, almost like exhaustive detail, but the way he does it, there's a parallel to what I'm doing, but the way he does it is not boring. It's not like, oh my God, please get to the point. He keeps your attention and he moves the story along, the pacing, the characters, the dialogue. It all moves along. So you're settle in for this long audio file. Next thing you know, you're done with the book. You're like, oh my God.
You made it.
Yeah. And no, it doesn't seem like any time passed. It held your interest. I like stuff like that only because it's totally different from my industry, but it helps me in ways, especially with tech articles where you have to throw in a lot of detail that could potentially be very dry. You can do it in a way that doesn't read like an engineering manual, and I think that helps. Yep.
All right. I think that's the first time somebody's recommended that book. I've heard some Tom Clancy books, but of course he's written a lot. But
yep.
Rainbow Six, I love it. So I'm going to allow you to go on the ultimate drive. I'm going to buy you any vehicle in the world. You can take it anywhere, and you can go with anybody, even somebody who's passed. So what does that look like for you?
There's a couple things. I would love to drive the Tail of the Dragon. I've been on a portion of that. Tail of the Dragon. If I could do that with somebody like Mark Stilo from Chevrolet Racing, that would be wonderful. And if we could do it in one of his Camaros, I would really like that because he's sort of the pinnacle, like that is the height of the movement, I think, of taking an older car, modernizing it, giving it performance beyond what it was ever designed to do, and also making it livable, drivable almost every day. Cool. So Mark Stilo in one of his 69 Camaros on the Tail of the Dragon, and him coaching me on driving. I would love that.
Yeah, well, that would be fun for sure. You picked a nice one. Yeah, what a road too. Wow. Yeah, legendary. Well, you've taken us on a wonderful ride today, John, and I want to thank you for spending some time and having some talks about hot rods and the new idea of hot rodding and all that. I mean, it's a constant evolution. Before I let you go, could you share some words of inspiration, advice, or maybe a success quote or a mantra with our listeners?
Yeah, always keep learning. I say that. Always keep learning. There's always something to learn. There's always somebody to learn from. I've learned a lot in my life, but I'm still an amateur at all of this, I feel.
We all are amateurs at life. Yeah. Just when you think someone else has got it figured out, not really.
Right. And so I think that also helps keep you humble. So I prefer that type of approach to everything. And I think the world would be a pretty good place if a lot of people were like that too.
Well, I think so. How can people learn more about Hot Rod Magazine?
Yes, we are online at hotrod.com. We have Facebook and Instagram and Twitter accounts, the Hot Rod Magazine. If you want to see me, I'm mostly on Instagram at john.mcgann, McGann. We have a video series that we're doing on YouTube now. We have stuff on the Motor Trend app. You can find us shows like Roadkill and Roadkill Garage, Hot Rod Garage on the Motor Trend app. And then we also are doing sort of a YouTube series under the CarCraft name. And that's something we just started this year. And that's on Motor Trend's YouTube channel.
You're not busy at all, are you? Holy cow.
I know.
I love it. Well, I'll put links to these on John's show. Oh, you're welcome, on John's show notes page, so all you listeners can check them all out. I want to do a thank you to a past guest here, Kevin Tates, who introduced me to John. Kevin has brought several great people onto Cars Yeah, and if you missed my talk with Kevin, just go back and find him on the, it would be the resources page on the Cars Yeah website or the search page. So there you go. Thank you, Kevin. John, hey, thanks for being so generous today with your time and sharing your life with us. This has been great fun. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. This was fun.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.